What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Eurofed in depth. Today we're here at our Alpharetta location checking out this beautiful A4 S4 swapped Avant. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. And without further ado, let's dive in.
I bought this car brand new in 2011, and I wanted something that was kind of different. There weren't a lot of wagons on the market. I had owned a Mazda Protege 5 before this, and at that time, this was Audi was one of the few manufacturers making wagons. So I bought it brand new, and it's been a daily driver up and down Atlanta and 400 every day. I put like 240-some thousand miles on it, and as we were getting close to the end of its life, in terms of what I thought we were going to hit a problem, I was talking to all my buddies at race weekends and various things. We kind of started brainstorming about what are we going to do when this thing, if it has an engine issue. And so we said we were going to swap it. And so at the end of the day, I had always bought an Audi Roswell, and the Audi Roswell guys did a great job maintaining it for the 10 years. And then I had an issue where there's a sensor on the transmission went out, and so I needed to find a partner to help me do something that really hadn't been done. There was no book for it. And so I started the process of trying to call around and see what we would do, and it ultimately led me to sit down with Peter and the team here at Alpharetta, the Eurofed Alpharetta, and we sat down and put a plan together, and I couldn't be more thrilled with how it turned out.
I wouldn't believe that this guy had this car for over 10 years and still kept this interior clean, man. What's your secret? How do you...
The secret is, when I bought this, it was like second most expensive thing I owned other than a house. And so, I told them we in our family, we keep our cars clean, and so definitely wash it and make sure the kids weren't allowed to. If we ate French fries, we definitely made sure that they were cleaned up afterwards. But we try to keep it clean, and I think it goes back to why I decided to do the swap. It's like for an 11-year-old car.
Yeah, man.
The interior is in perfect shape.
I don't see any flaws to it, man. It's super clean, and you've also got a cutout exhaust setup, right?
Yeah, so when we were going through again scope-wise, my biggest fear was I wanted to be able to take this car and use it for client dinners and take it through various things, but I didn't want to always look like I was having a midlife crisis, like obnoxious, and so we decided just to have a kind of a cheap trick was to go through and put a hydraulic valve on it and just cut out the exhaust, so you can open it up and it sounds like, it's...
and is there like a controller for it?
Yeah, so there's a little remote control. You can see it.
You open and close.
Yeah, so you can hit open on it if you want to.
Okay.
You'll feel it in the car.
Oh! Oh!
Part of the reason, again, that attracted me to do this, buy the car and then do the swap is, again, there's just not a lot of wagons. And I love the fact that I can have, I had 2 kids instead of golf clubs, and you could, it was totally practical for day-to-day life. But at the end of the day, I think it just got a really great stance, and it's a car a lot of people don't have. And so the idea was, it was already cool when it was just a factory, in my opinion, A4 Avant. It would be really freaking cool to be able to turn it and have it, S4 Avant. So, I guess lessons learned and advice, for people that are wanting to go through and do swaps. I think we had a plan. We sat down, we were really thoughtful about putting together a list. I've talked about it with Peter and this group that was, trying to find a partner is really important because there's going to be things that don't go according to plan. And that was our case. And so I think it's really important just to know that, because you're going to get frustrated when things don't go right. When we, and I think lessons learned, just specifically for this one, this was a B8 Avant, and we went through and bought a B8.5 sedan as a donor. And so when we got into it, the engine was actually relatively straightforward, but the wiring harness became, and the trim levels were different, so that became a real challenge. And I give, again, the team here a lot of credit. We didn't, it wasn't fun when we kind of hit those kind of roadblocks, but we sat down and we reassessed and we worked through it. So, end of the day, the project took longer than I expected. But that being said, the original timeline really wasn't something I was focused on. The goal here was always to get the end result, something that we could, jump in, take for a drive, put it back in the garage, and know there's not going to be problems every time you start it up. And that's been what my experience so far has been. It's been just a pleasure to kind of jump in and drive whenever I want to.
Man! So let me close it real quick?
Yeah.
Man, it's quiet.
You know, next for it, I mean, the car's got, you know, from far it looks pretty good, but it's got 240-some thousand miles on the chassis, and so there's some road rash that needs to be cleaned up. So I'm looking forward to doing some body work next and putting the new front end on it and getting it repainted and kind of brought back to, you know, I'll call it factory condition. But other than that, I mean, the goal is really to kind of keep it a sleeper. I mean, I want people from the outside. To me, part of the reason I love this car is it looks just like a normal, I'll call it boring Avant, until you hear the thing start up and you hit the revs, and it definitely turns into a beast. When I was looking at buying cars, and I was back in 2011, there weren't a lot of wagons in the market. And Audi, not only do they make a wagon, but I've just always been a really big fan of their styling. For me, it was something I'm no longer in my 20s, and so I wanted something that looked sophisticated, but at the same time, that was fun to drive. And I can't, I couldn't speak highly enough to the quality of the build. I think in terms of the original body I started with. I mean, again, for this thing to have 240,000 miles and go through petite Le Mans camping and 2 kids and car seats and dogs and all the things that go along with it, the interiors held up well, the bodies held up great, the original engine and transmission were fantastic. So for me, it was really simple. I said when I'd kind of gone 10 plus years and it had really, I think, shown the life of the existing factory, parts. It was an easy decision to double down and to put the new motor in it. I mean, it's a lot of fun. My wife's not a big fan of it, but it's a lot of fun for on ramps and various things, just fooling around. But, again, for daily driver, I mean, you don't have to drive it and hoon it. I mean, you can just drive it, hit casual, but the exhaust open is.
Oh yeah! And you've also got an in-house Eurofed tune on it, right?
Yeah.
So how do you like that so far? Was that?
The power, I mean, the tune's been impressive.
So was it stage 2 tune?
Stage 2 plus, I'll call it. They went through as their own, custom tune. And the biggest thing is just this thing's got so much torque. I mean, it's third and fourth gear. It just wants to pull. So it's not. I mean, it feels fast, obviously, in first and second, but it's really third and fourth gear at speed. I mean, it just wants to keep going. Which is a ton of fun. So my goal right now is to see how long I can not get a speeding ticket in this thing. But it is definitely, it wants to go. If we were to do the build again, I think I would have done a little bit more homework and understand the trim level differences and how that would affect the build. This was a prestige package, which means that I had the sunroof and I had navigation and I had rear-facing camera. The donor car that we bought, had a different trim level, and so through the process, I lost navigation and I lost kind of the rear camera functionality in terms of being factory functionality. Again, that's not a big deal for me. I wasn't worried about that. But I think if I were to redo it all over again, we probably would have done a little more homework on the trim levels of the cars we were swapping. I mean, I think originally the fun part was we sat down and we met, and I think we had a timeline. It was going to take 4 months or so, and that was kind of our original plan as we were kind of thinking through the engine swap. When we got into it and the engine part, we had a couple issues. The first was just, and I don't think that wasn't specific to Eurofed. With COVID and parts delays, just supply chain. We ran into issues with certain parts coming in, and so that took a little longer than expected. But aside of supply chain issues, really the where it kind of went a little sideways and we lost some timing was the process of going through and what happened with the wiring harness swap. I think we got the engine in and the engine ran perfectly, but then when we had realized is that for everything else to work properly, you had to redo the dash, you had to the rear tail lights and making sure that the fuel pumps and everything, it just kind of snowballed. And so we have ultimately decided that it was better to just do the entire wiring harness from the donor car than to try to mix, and sew things together, I'll call it. So at that point, we kind of extended the entire process and gutted the entire interior, pulled the whole wiring harness out, put the whole new wiring harness in, and then I give the guys credit. I mean, they spent a ton of time coding out the various issues, trying to figure out the various tail lights that we needed to order. It's kind of trial by error there. But again, I think it all starts with, we weren't rushing. There wasn't the point wasn't to just go through and slam it together. It was really, I wanted them to be proud of the work, and it was something that I was going to, I wanted to be proud of what we were putting together and building. So, end of the day, it took longer than expected. But again, I'm not upset about that. I don't think that's something. I think that just has to do with anytime you try something new, you're going to run into those kinds of things. And again, that's why it's so important to pick a partner for these types of things, because something's going to happen that you don't plan for.